Yo, 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 people and patrons of the night, it is your boy, the Horrorlander, aka the Horror Hero, but you can better yet call me BD or Shiv. And I'm back at it again with another Goosebumps House of Shivers book review, which is the latest and most modern Goosebumps book series that's coming out at the moment. And why am I reviewing another one within a short span of time? Well, as I announced in my community post, the next 4 videos back to back on my channel, including this one, is going to be me catching up to the House of Shivers book series. And I wanted to do that because I wanted to be in tune with all the new releases that are coming out, kind of understanding where Goosebumps is kind of going in the modern age. And the next release that's going to be upcoming is, I believe, One Night at Camp Bigfoot, which is going to be in March of 2026. So I got some time, so I thought I might as well catch up right now and see what all the hype is about. I heard that House of Shivers is a refreshing book series in Goosebumps, and after reading 2 books so far, I gotta say yeah. And spoiler alert, this book that I just read, Night of the Living Mummy, which I'm covering today, was a damn good book. It's got some positives that I want to talk about and minor negatives, but overall it was a fun read and it's got some special stuff in terms of the Goosebumps series. So without further ado, let's get into the book review. So first of all, I'm just going to go over a little bit about the plot, then I'm going to go into the positives of the book, the negatives of the book, and then I'll go over my overall rating, let you guys know how I felt about it, and then how does it stand so far in the Goosebumps House of Shivers book series, and in general, the Goosebumps series as a whole. So without further ado, let's get into Night of the Living Mummy. I will say though, the worst thing about this book so far is the title. That title sucks. It is a play, it's a riff off of Night of the Living Dummy. Not a good title, but the book cover I love. This is one of my favorite book covers in House of Shivers. I love the god statues in the background with that sphinx kind of shape. You have obviously Anubis and Horus in the background. You got that orangish kind of sunset mist. And then you got the mummy who's reaching out with the pretty epic pose. He's got that Cyclops like wild eye. And you have a hand off screen who's pulling the amulet of Osiris away. So it's a pretty damn good cover. Probably my favorite cover of House of Shivers so far. It's kind of tough because Last Sleepover I really love, but I think this one might just edge it out. So yeah, great cover and great job, Robert Ball. So the book basically opens up with your protagonist named Happy. Happy is a kid who is super obsessed with ancient Egypt. He loves talking about its history. He loves exploring information on the pharaohs, the pyramids, royalty, culture, and all kinds of stuff like that, artifacts. And he's giving a presentation in his class in the morning, and he's actually talking about the mummification process. He's talking about in detail all the gross stuff, like how they had to use a hook to pull the brain out of the nose when you're mummifying somebody, how they cover it in hot tar, putting the corpse in all types of bandages and filling it up with spices and stuff like that. So people start getting grossed off accordingly, but it makes sense that this guy is pretty obsessed with ancient Egypt, and it has that kind of Disney Channel original movie vibe where you have this very quirky main character with a unique interest, which is pretty cliche, but it's fun enough, especially when you get later into the book and it kind of holds more relevance for his role in this story. You then find out that the local museum is going to be opening up in the town, and it's actually opening up with a special exhibit. Yes, this exhibit is going to be a brand new mummy, which is coming in for display in the Egyptian room, which obviously piques the interest of Happy. And this mummy is actually that belonging to a boy king, a 14-year-old named Rahman, and he's going to be making his debut at this museum. So the class basically ends up scheduling this field trip. They hop on the bus and they get over there, and right away Happy strays away from the group. He runs away and disobeys orders, doesn't stick with the kids, and he ends up running off into the Egyptian room. He finds that it's closed off, which is very strange, and he runs into a security guard who tries to chase him away, but after pulling some strings and doing a little bit of lying and finessing, as we call it, he ends up finessing his way over to the Egyptian room. But something weird happens because he sees the display, which has the open casket of Rahman, the boy king, and he's a little shocked seeing this corpse, this mummy of this little boy, this kid pharaoh, and then the mummy gets up. Yes, it's alive. It comes up, it stares at him, it looks at him. And next thing you know, Happy starts getting into this weird sort of mental state. He almost feels like he's about to knock over and go unconscious. He ends up falling over on top of the casket, on top of the mummy, smelling those spices and decay and feeling those rotten, sort of bandages and stuff all around it, the cloth. And then we get transported over to ancient Egypt for the next part of the book because we actually get to see the backstory and setup to Rahman, the boy king of ancient Egypt, thousands of years ago. So we get to take on a brand new perspective and give backstory as to what happened with Rahman and why is he alive in the modern age and targeting Happy of all people as fate may coincide with it. So you get to see the kingdom of ancient Egypt, you get to see Rahman, the boy king, and you get to introduce to his family and sort of his paparazzi in a way. You have his mother Isis, and his father had unfortunately passed away, and now Rahman is in charge of taking over the mantle, becoming the new king of ancient Egypt. And he has Khufu, who's an advisor. Khufu was an advisor to his father, and together their strategy and overall ruling was very successful for maintaining the kingdom. So Rahman has some big shoes to fill. But Khufu's style of ruling that he advises Rahman on and Rahman's own intuitive style of ruling kind of clash with each other. And you get to see that dynamic between them. You also get introduced to a very loving and very natural feeling relationship between him and his mother and how royalty plays into family. You have his two younger siblings who he has a genuine relationship with. It's very sweet seeing those little guys, and just the family interacting is very nice. And some of the socio-political stuff is extremely well done. I'll get into more detail of it later, but I really enjoyed this ancient Egypt section. And fortunately and unfortunately, an ancient artifact is given to Rahman the Boy King, which is this amulet of Osiris, belonging to the god of death. Anubis and Osiris are kind of like the gods connected to death in ancient Egypt, and this amulet is said to hold powerful magic, which is a lot to give to a boy king, but he ends up getting targeted. Maybe the amulet is about to be stolen, and there's some betrayal and a very vicious, brutal scene that I was shocked to see. And I remember reading it and I'm like, holy shit, Stein actually did that in a Goosebumps book. That's pretty fucking crazy. That entire scene involves the family being at the dining table, including Khufu the advisor, Isis the mother, the siblings, and of course Rahman the boy king. And as he's eating some food, this venomous black snake ends up striking out from the table and biting down on his throat and refusing to let go, injecting his arteries with the neurotoxic venom. And the servants come and the family starts getting all paranoid and starts going crazy. They try pulling the snake off, but it won't let go. It's hooked on there like a pit bull and just won't release him. And obviously he's getting envenomated, and he ends up dying on the spot with this thing basically killing him right there at the dining table. And it's brutal. It's not like a cutaway scene with, implying the snake bites him or a very quick thing. No, it actively describes the fangs piercing into his throat, him suffocating, the venom flowing through him, the fact that they're pulling the snake and it won't let go. He's getting pulled with it, and he ends up dying on the spot. And there's a huge grieving process. There's a funeral and a whole ritual thing that happens, burying the pharaoh. But then they call upon this sorcerer from ancient Egypt who was known to be very powerful. He helped with the fertility of ancient Egypt, cultivating the lands and farmlands, keeping off evil omens and all these kind of things. And his name is Vather. And Vather is called over to the pyramids of the pharaohs, and he's encouraged, he's requested by the advisor Khufu and the mother Isis to bring back the pharaoh because he died way too young. It was a very strange act. So he tries using some powders and some other magic things, but he doesn't come back to life right away. So they expect that Ramon being reanimated was a failure. That is until they bury him, and then there's a sneaking suspicion in Isis that somebody within the actual pyramid had betrayed him, was responsible for her son's death, and she wants to find out where the amulet has been stolen because now it's missing, and it's a very powerful artifact, and she suspects that that may have been the reason why he was killed and why somebody wanted to take on the royal authority. And they eventually end up digging back up Rahman from his casket, and he's alive. He comes back to life, and he reveals that the person who stole it may have had some magical capabilities with that amulet and actually used the amulet and some of the magical powers to go time traveling into the future into the modern age where our protagonist Happy is. So that's why Rahman, the boy king, ends up reanimating in the museum, ends up connecting with Happy, and now basically ends up taking mind control of Happy. He uses some telepathic powers to take possession, and he wants to work with Happy as a sentience inside of his head to go find the amulet, go find the person responsible for stealing it, and then saving the day. Because keeping that in the hands of somebody evil in the modern age could cause a lot of chaotic things to happen and a lot of bad stuff. So it needs to be returned. And Happy, with some morbid curiosity and a little bit of being held against his will, has to go help Rahman the Boy King, the young pharaoh who died and now came back, to go find it in the modern age. That's the plot without me giving too much away. Extra stuff happens, but that's all spoilers. So now let's get into the positives, the negatives, and what are my overall thoughts about the book. So the positives I have to give right away to that whole section about ancient Egypt, where you get the backstory of Rahman, the pharaoh king, you get his family and the advisor and all these different people. That was an amazing section. I was surprised that Stein went down there, because you get that whole struggle between Rahman becoming the new pharaoh, having to fulfill the obligations and responsibilities of his dead father, and the fact that him and Khufu are kind of conflicting with each other. They're struggling in terms of how Rahman should be a pharaoh, how should he be a king, how is he going to guide the kingdom and its people's prosperity and protection, because Khufu's style is a lot more traditional. He wants Rahman to be fear-mongering, to threaten people with death, to feel very powerful and sinister and ruthless, because that way people will be afraid to challenge him. People will be afraid to betray him. And it's the whole idea of building fear within your community and using that to grip people by the chains. But Rahman's intuitive style is he wants to be nice towards his people. He wants to be honest towards them and build the trust with them, because by doing so, he'll be able to gain their trust, to gain their faith. He'll be able to look like a good king, and he can make people's lives better instead of keeping them on edge. And that's sort of the idea of tradition versus intuition. He's this young boy. He's very intuitive. He doesn't have any real experience. Meanwhile, Khufu has been an old advisor. He was his father's advisor. He may have been an advisor to a previous pharaoh or so. So he has that experience, and it's been a formulaic success to the kingdom. And even his mother Isis, who loves her son, who respects her son and his decisions, tells him that, as a pharaoh, you have to learn patience. You might actually learn something from Khufu. He might teach you a little bit about, keeping your authority, looking powerful, because you're a you're basically like a 14-year-old boy. People are not going to take you as seriously as they did your father. That's just being realistic. And he's like, no, I have nothing to learn. I know that being the right person, being the type of king that people would want, is what's going to get people to follow me. It's not going to be me fear-mongering them. So you have a socio-political clash in a Goosebumps book without it being cringy, and I really like that. It's rare that you see that in kids' horror, especially Goosebumps. And when you hear socio-political stuff in a modern kids' horror book, you assume the worst. You think it's going to be very sort of messy and not good, especially with some stuff you've seen in recent ages. But no, you're going back to an ancient kingdom. You're seeing that type of back and forth chess match dynamic between a young boy and his very ruthless advisor, very traditional. And also on top of that, there's great family relations. I mean, the bond between Isis, the mother, and her son is very genuine. When he dies, she mourns for him, she grieves for him, she sobs. It's very touching. The relationship he has with his two younger siblings is nice. They're always joking with him and keeping it friendly. So even though he's this royal king, they're keeping him grounded and humbled, treating him just like he's any other person, like their normal brother. And on top of that, it gets dark, man. The fact that there is a venomous snake which straight up bites a kid in the throat, envenomates him, and they can't, get rid of the snake, and he ends up dying that way is brutal, and it was rough, and imagining it was kind of crazy. The idea of him becoming a zombie, a corpse, a mummy, going through the mummification process, brain pulled out, tar, everything, and the fact that, he comes back to life, that's quite, dark in itself. So Stein did a really good job. And, I love the fact that we got a deeper look into the culture. Matter of fact, there's constant mention of the ancient Egyptian gods, not the Egyptian god cards from Yu-Gi-Oh! We ain't talking about that, people.
Behold! Slifer the Sky Dragon! Egyptian god card.
Although that would have been a lot more fucking badass, I ain't gonna lie to you, especially my boy Obelisk. You dig?
To play this, Obelisk the Tormentor! Behold, the Egyptian god card I won from Kaiba!
Or actually more the winged dragon of Ra. I'll never forget when Merrick also caught a stray in the anime. That shit was fantastic.
Told you shouldn't mess with my brother.
Hold on!
Huh?
Something else is going on up there!
Why have my life points gone to 0?
What did you just do?
Play this.
Ah!
Dude deadass said, well, what do you say fuck me for? Jokes aside, I really love that ancient Egyptian god kind of representation in the book. I like the fact that they keep bringing up all the different Anubis and all these different, Osiris and different gods. Even when Ramon dies, there's priests that come in and pray for him for a while to these gods, wish upon him a nice journey into the afterlife and maintaining that pharaoh status even in the heavens. And it's like, that's really cool. And the power of the amulet, the power of this magic comes directly from the ancient gods themselves. So it feels like Stein was doing a more serious overview of ancient Egyptian culture, which I enjoy. The fact that he took it more seriously. A lot of the time, ancient Egypt and kids' horror will be a gimmick, will be a setting drop. It's not taken as seriously as it is here, but I actually really like the fact that he took his time. We don't know if it's all accurate, but the fact that he tried to make it seem more accurate, a global scale, sort of in this world about what's the socio-political, climate between Ramon and his advisory and the other royalty. How is he maintaining family relationships? There's betrayal, there's problems, there's magic, there's conflict, there's all these things. And again, the tones of the hieroglyphics and their old practices and the gods. It was very epic to me, and it easily stole the show. I love that so much, and I love the fact that Stein went down that route. When you cut into the modern age, I like the climax in the book. You get some magical powers being used, some back and forth fighting between close people you would not expect. That was a nice little twist. And you actually get to revisit Egypt again. And it's almost like these two separate worlds of the modern age and this thousands of years ago ancient age are connected together, and they end up coming together in, the type of ways you might expect. So I like that quite a bit. And I like the decom charm to it. It feels like a decom with the quirkiness of the main character having this giant 6 foot tall like Lego pyramid in his room, obsessed with the culture and stuff like that, being laughed upon, his name being Happy because he's always smiling and a happy guy, and in this situation he's no longer happy, he's in threat and stressed out. So I like that. You also have the fun little conflicts, which are cliche, but I like the things about, a sentience being in your head. You two are arguing and people hear you and they think you're crazy. And Happy's funny because every time somebody says, like, are you talking to yourself? He's like, yeah, I am. And then the person will look at him like, the fuck did he just say? And they'll just look away. Or he'll be arguing with Rahman and then his homie will look at him like, is this dude schizophrenic? And then he'll just be like, it's like when you cough and try to cover a fart, it's like, he's so bad at covering up him talking to the mummy. But it's funny and it's charming and I like that. I like that back and forth. Also, Rahman has the power to make his head throb and make it feel like it's about to explode. And it's like, that visceral headache kind of pain. So it's fun. Rahman is powerful, but he has a good spirit. So those are all positives to the book, and it's a damn good fun read. I think the negatives ultimately come down to it being a little cheesy. Some points get a little bit too cheesy. The very kind of resolution at the end, like the last few chapters, it was a little bit too convenient. At the very last chapter, the ending is kind of just there. It just sort of happens. There's no explanation. So I had to take points off of that because it felt like, okay, you didn't really bother trying to explain it. You just kind of threw the guy into something, no pun intended. So yeah, I was like, that didn't really work out. And there's no twist ending. Last Sleepover did not have a twist ending. This book does not have a twist ending. It's a pretty simple resolution. The ending to this one was a little, whatever. I think the one to Last Sleepover was a little more charming. The one at the end of here is just kind of like, okay. Didn't really add anything to the conclusion of the book. But overall, this is a damn good book for the reasons that I brought up. The ancient Egypt section are fantastic. It has good serious scenes. It goes in depth to the ancient Egyptian culture, kids horror standard wise. Really good at painting a picture. I love all the characters in there. Happy's a pretty enjoyable character. He has funny moments with Rahman. It has that decom feel when it's not being serious at other parts. And yeah, overall it had a fun, back and forth tussle towards the climax, so it's an enjoyable enough read. I would give it an 8.4 out of 10. This is a good book, a damn good book, and yes, I have it a little bit higher than Last Sleepover. So this is my favorite book so far in House of Shivers. We gotta wait to see until I finish these 4 videos. But yeah, I like this one quite a bit. And in terms of Goosebumps, I say that this is a standout modern. I think if you guys are not, anti-mummy or anti-ancient Egypt, you should check out this book. I think you'll have a fun time and enjoy parts of it. And it's definitely refreshing and definitely fun from your typical formulaic stuff. Stein is venturing and experimenting, giving you even more POVs and backstories and stuff like that, which is damn good. I enjoy that quite a bit. And that's all I got for today. 8.4 out of 10. Damn good book for Night of the Living Mummy. Let me know your thoughts down below. Did you like this book? Did you not like this book? What are your positives and negatives? Do you agree with me or disagree with me? How do you feel about House of Shivers as a whole? So far, I gotta say, it is a refreshing take and it's had good books so far. So we'll wait to see how that lasts. Looking at you, say my name, say my name. I've heard things. Oh, I heard things. And stay tuned for more content, obviously, to come. The next 3 book reviews are going to be coming out relatively soon to each other. And yeah, have a good day. Go outside, enjoy, and make sure you don't run into any mind-controlling mummies. But if you do, have them take you back to ancient Egypt because it's got royalty perks. You never know. Deuces, everybody.
Arrivederci.